If I'd have done all the things I was supposed to have done, I'd be really tired.
On a sweltering Texas afternoon, the faded wooden gate creaked open, revealing the vast land known as Luck Ranch. To visitors, it is a country paradise, where horses leisurely graze beneath the blazing golden sunset. But locals tell a different story. Beyond those old wooden fences lies more than just open fields, but also glowing greenhouses that stay lit through the night. The birthplace of a forbidden field that built a notorious cannabis empire. Its owner is none other than Willie Nelson, the legendary American country musician, the wandering artist with his old guitar trigger, the man who gave birth to the outlaw country movement and challenged every boundary of traditional music. Few know that he once lost everything when his tax debt soared to $32 million, and that he attempted to end his life multiple times due to substance abuse. Yet today he stands as a wealthy, controversial king of legal cannabis in America. So, what truly lies within Luck Ranch? A musical paradise or a massive underground cannabis operation? And beyond that forbidden field, how many secrets remain hidden in Willie Nelson's luxurious life? The secret mansions, the all-night parties, or the underground deals that turned him from a broke man into a living legend? Let's uncover those secrets in today's video. Before becoming the rebellious icon of American music, Willie was just a skinny boy growing up in the poor town of Abbott, Texas, a beginning that seemed far too small to create a legend. Born in 1933, Willie Hugh Nelson experienced hardship early on when his parents left, leaving him and his sister Bobby to be raised by their grandparents. In the modest wooden house in the middle of the Texas plains, his grandmother often sang church hymns, planting in the boy's heart a love for singing and the guitar, a sound that would follow him for the rest of his life. At 6 years old, he was given his first guitar, a simple gift that changed his life forever. Just a few years later, Willie began writing his first songs, filled with the spirit of gospel and rustic country. By the age of 10, the red-haired boy was already confident enough to sing before the local community, as if music was the blood flowing through his veins. But Willie's childhood wasn't just about music. He worked many odd jobs to help his family, from picking cotton to herding cattle. Those experiences of fields, pastures, sweat, and dusty soil nurtured in him a love for the farm, something that would later define his music and live on in every corner of Luck Ranch. As a teenager, after a short stint in the Air Force which ended due to lung problems, Willie became a DJ at Texas radio stations, earning a living while absorbing the sounds of country, jazz, and blues. He went on to write timeless songs like Crazy and Nightlife, earning respect from his peers as a songwriting genius. In the early 1970s, Nelson left Nashville for Austin, and it was there that he transformed. With Shotgun Willie, 1973, and especially Red-Headed Stranger, 1975, he broke every mold. Long braided hair, a battered trigger guitar, a raspy offbeat voice, blue eyes. Crying in the Rain carried him straight to the Grammys, turning a man once rejected into the symbol of an entire generation. Together with Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Chris Christopherson, he formed the Highwaymen, a quartet of defiant cowboys singing about freedom, fate, and humanity. They weren't just a band. They were a cultural phenomenon that made all of America look up. And then Nelson did the unthinkable. He sang pop songs in Stardust, 1978. While everyone mocked the outlaw singing love songs, the album sold over 5 million copies, forcing critics to swallow their words. By the 1980s, the image of Willie with his long hair, the scarred trigger, and On the Road Again playing in the movie Honeysuckle Rose became almost like a film about his own life. From a poor Texas boy, he became a nomad wandering across America, living, singing, and turning every insult into legend. However, it would be an oversight to speak only of his musical glory while ignoring the scandals that once made Willie Nelson's name dominate headlines. His life is like a paradoxical ballad where gentle melodies intertwine with earth-shaking falls. In 1990, the biggest fall came when the U.S. Internal Revenue Service knocked on Nelson's door with a shocking figure: $32 million in unpaid taxes. In a single night, the country legend hit rock bottom, losing his homes, ranches, and even his beloved guitar trigger, which nearly went to auction. But instead of collapsing, Nelson devised a bold counterattack, releasing the album The IRS Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories, to both raise money for his debt and mock the government. Thus, a financial scandal turned into yet another legendary chapter of his career. Not stopping there, Nelson shook America once again when, in his memoir, he casually revealed that he had smoked marijuana on the White House balcony during a visit to President Jimmy Carter. That defiant act sent the media into a frenzy, transforming him into a proud symbol of freedom, regardless of the law. Yet the price of that reckless lifestyle was steep. Endless nights filled with alcohol, cigarettes, and marijuana repeatedly pushed him to the edge. In 1981, Nelson narrowly escaped death after his lungs collapsed from inflammation, the result of years of smoking, drinking, and sleepless nights with marijuana. But he bluntly declared, "I quit cigarettes, but I'll never quit weed." As a result, Nelson often found himself on the wrong side of the law, arrested for marijuana possession from New York to Texas, even handcuffed on his tour bus. Yet those arrests, instead of destroying his career, only reinforced his image as a fearless rebel, a legend who dared to live authentically, defying both social prejudice and the constraints of the law. And then, what was once considered disgraceful turned into a brand. In 2015, Willie Nelson officially launched Willie's Reserve, a legal green empire spread across the United States. From seeds, edibles, vape oils to online commerce, the brand turned the image of the smoke-blowing cowboy into a lucrative industry. But what astonished the public even more was his bold honesty. While many artists hid their habits for fear of scandal, Willie Nelson treated marijuana as part of his identity, a thread connecting his music, his philosophy of life, and his business. That defiance transformed him from a drifter repeatedly arrested into the most famous legal cannabis tycoon in America, a paradox that sounds impossible but is entirely real. And every road seems to lead back to Luck Ranch, the Texas farm where he has spent the later years of his life. By day, it is a peaceful paradise, but behind that calm facade, locals whisper that it was once a forbidden field, the birthplace of a cannabis empire. Nelson has never confirmed it, nor denied it. He lets the secret linger in the air like the smoke curling around a cigar, both real and unreal, keeping America forever curious. So, what exactly lies within Luck Ranch? We are about to uncover the truth. Located in Spicewood, Texas, Willie Nelson's 700-acre Luck Ranch has long been regarded as a serene haven. Horses wandering freely across the prairie, the wind gently brushing over the Texas fields. Few remember that this place was originally built as the film set for Red-Headed Stranger, the 1986 movie starring Nelson himself. When filming ended, Nelson bought the property and gradually transformed it into his private ranch. But the question remains, what did he transform Luck Ranch into? A peaceful retreat, or something else entirely, hidden from the world and known only to Nelson himself? Every spring, Luck Reunion turns the ranch into a musical sanctuary in the heart of Texas. Under the open sky, thousands of fans lose themselves in the rhythm of drums, guitars, and the faint trails of smoke drifting through the air. On stage, Willie Nelson appears like a spiritual leader of freedom, both grounded and mystical. Yet few know that behind that public stage lies another one, hidden among the trees behind the ranch. There, Nelson hosts private concerts for a select group of guests, fellow musicians, business partners, and at times, special visitors from the cannabis industry. Amid campfire flames and the scent of burning wood, conversations flow about music, the philosophy of freedom, and the green projects quietly taking shape. More than once, that secluded space has become a secret meeting point for powerful figures in entertainment and politics. People eager to witness firsthand how Willie Nelson turned a personal passion into a multi-million-dollar legal industry. The story of Luck Ranch grew into legend when, at night, strange white lights were seen glowing behind the trees, illuminating the prairie. Locals believe those are the greenhouses, off-limits zones where cannabis is grown. According to those who claim to have seen it, inside are hundreds of cannabis plants neatly arranged, supported by automated irrigation and climate control systems. It's no longer the outlaw cowboy's hobby, but a modern, disciplined, and strategically planned production model. Alongside it stands a seed bank, the quiet pride of Luck Ranch. Nelson and his team have collected hundreds of cannabis strains from around the world, energetic sativas from Mexico, soothing indicas from Afghanistan, and hybrids refined over years of cultivation. All are preserved in small, cold storage rooms, forming a living library that could shape the future of the legal cannabis industry. Beyond cultivation, Nelson also built an experimental processing facility where he and his team developed the first products under the Willie's Reserve brand: dried flower, essential oils, edibles, and even a signature vape line. Nelson described cannabis not as a business venture, but as an extension of his life philosophy. Music heals the soul, and cannabis heals the body. I just bring the two together. For him, growing plants and making music are both acts of freedom. In 2015, Willie's Reserve, his legal cannabis brand, was officially launched and quickly expanded across states that legalized marijuana. Only then did the public realize that the flickering lights of the Texas night were nothing less than the beginning of a billion-dollar brand. Luck Ranch, once merely a refuge for an artist, had become the command center of an entire industry. Today, Luck Ranch is both a daytime country paradise and a nighttime forbidden field. It may simply be a peaceful retreat, or it may secretly serve as the breeding ground for rare cannabis strains, the foundation of America's most famous cannabis brand. Nelson has never said, and perhaps he doesn't need to, because the more he stays silent, the greater the legend becomes, a dual world where country and cannabis intertwine, where truth drifts hazy like smoke in the Texas night. If Luck Ranch is the open stage for the world, where fans can touch the legend, and where smoke mingles with the sound of the guitar, then just a few miles away, in Spicewood, Texas, Willie Nelson keeps another fortress for himself. Few would guess that behind its calm exterior, his private home hides mysteries even more intriguing than any wild concert. Stretching nearly 788 acres, the Spicewood Mansion is unlike the showy villas of Hollywood stars. It is like a dream erected in the Pedernales River Valley. Glass, wood, stone, and steel blending together, making the house seem to grow from the earth. But what makes this place famous is not its exquisite architecture, but what happens behind closed doors. In the back garden, a small greenhouse rises like Pandora's box. Here, Willie and his wife, Annie D'Angelo, are said to have grown not only vegetables and flowers, but also cannabis, the plant tied to his rebellious image. Visitors are often overwhelmed by the contrast. In the living room, light pierces through the soaring glass wall, casting onto the guitar placed beside the stone fireplace, where Willie might sit and pluck a few notes as part of his daily routine. But just a step into the garden, the scene changes instantly. A crystal-clear pond, a murmuring artificial waterfall, and right next to it, lush green rows in the greenhouse. The blend of nature and cannabis, of family and business, makes many people ask, which one is the real Willie? What is most shocking is the absolute level of privacy. Unlike Luck Ranch, with its festivals, music, and public presence, the Spicewood Mansion is nearly impenetrable. Only family, trusted friends, or occasionally a few special artists ever have the chance to enter. In the Texas musician community, a half-joking saying still circulates: if you can get into Spicewood, it means Willie considers you as kin. That seclusion only adds to its legendary aura, like a secret base where the cannabis kingpin keeps what he will never reveal to the press. Ironically, stepping out of Spicewood, a drive of less than an hour takes you to Austin, the vibrant city where Willie performs, meets colleagues, and always appears among the crowd. But whenever he returns, he seems to vanish, blending into the house hidden among the hills where every scandal is left outside the gate. If Luck Ranch is Willie Nelson's outer face, brilliant, public, and loud, then the Spicewood Mansion is the inner face, secretive, private, and even suspicious. A place that bears serene beauty, yet holds whispers no one dares to confirm. And perhaps this very contrast is why Willie's story never ends. He is both a musical legend and an unsolved riddle. People often say a man's garage can tell an entire memoir. For Willie Nelson, nothing could be truer. Amid a life full of music, endless tours, and vast ranches, Willie still holds a special love for cars. Each car in his collection is not merely a means of transport, but a symbol, a piece of the portrait of who he is, from a poor Texas boy to the legend of outlaw country. The first notable car in the collection is the 1969 Chevrolet C10 pickup, worth about $50,000 US. To many, it is just a classic pickup, but to Willie, it is all of his Texas youth. Equipped with a powerful V8 engine, the C10 is the type commonly seen on ranches, hauling hay, tools, and sometimes even small horses. Rustic, powerful, unadorned, the C10 embodies Willie's rural roots. It is easy to imagine him driving it down the red dirt road at Luck Ranch, dust billowing behind, with lively country music coming from an old radio. It is a car more tied to the image of a Texas farmer than a million-dollar music star. In complete contrast to the rugged pickup is the 1980 Mercedes-Benz 450 SL, the elegant convertible worth about $30,000 USD. This is another slice of Willie, the nomadic artist who also knows how to enjoy luxury. The 450 SL, with refined European design and leather and wood interior, brings comfort as it glides gently along the winding roads of the Texas hills. If the Chevy symbolizes grit, the Mercedes shows grace and ease. It is like a seldom-seen facet of Willie, a man unafraid to step beyond the cowboy image to savor a bit of modern refinement. In his garage, there is also a 1967 Lincoln Continental, an icon of 1960s America, worth around $70,000 USD today. This model is famous for its suicide doors, rear-hinged doors, and its massive, imposing body. With classic luxury and smooth performance, the Lincoln Continental was once the car of presidents, stars, and power symbols. For Willie, it represents a nostalgic America, big, confident, unafraid to stand out. If the Chevy C10 is rural, the Mercedes 450 SL is graceful, then the Lincoln Continental is majestic. Another facet of Willie Nelson, who became a legend not only in music but also in popular culture. And then, stepping into the modern era, we find the Tesla Model Y, the compact electric car worth about $45,000 USD. With near absolute quiet, a minimalist interior, and advanced self-driving technology, the Tesla seems the opposite of the roaring V8s Willie once knew. Yet the choice makes perfect sense. Willie Nelson has long supported sustainable energy solutions. He founded Willie Nelson Biodiesel and has been a leading face of the clean energy movement. The Tesla in Willie's garage is not just a car. It is a statement that even classic icons can move into the future. This is Willie, a man rooted in tradition who never refuses innovation. Beyond cars, Willie Nelson owns another treasure, not kept in the garage, but stored in old wooden cabinets and a small room at Luck Ranch. It is the collection of watches, hats, and cowboy boots, items that may seem ordinary, but contain almost the entirety of his life's history. Each item here is not merely an accessory. It is a trace of each stage, each night on stage, each life that Willie has passed through. They say that by looking at a man's hat, you can tell how he has lived. If that is true, then Willie Nelson's hat collection is America's felt cloth diary for the past half-century. More than 200 Stetsons and Resistals lie still in the storage room. The glossy black one he wore when singing On the Road Again in Nashville, the faded one that followed him through the first Farm Aid tour, or the one with a singed brim from cigarette ash that fell during an endless night of drinking. Some are torn with misshapen brims, even soaked with sweat to the point the leather lining is worn, but Nelson keeps them all. To him, each hat is a friend, a witness to freedom, to blazing sunsets, and to fiery nights on stage. If hats are the mark on the head, then leather boots are the story underfoot, where each step Willie takes is imprinted on American soil. In the garage next to the studio, he keeps more than 50 pairs of boots, from low-cut pairs for riding to tall ones embroidered with Mexican patterns. There are rough black cowhide pairs, others with cannabis leaves embroidered on the heel, and some so old the sole has worn through to the stitching. Nelson says he doesn't buy boots to show off, but to remember. To remember the young days, the nights playing in dusty bars or tours so long that day and night blur together. Each pair of shoes at Luck Ranch is a chapter of an unwritten memoir, where music, dust, and the smell of smoke blend into the scent of freedom. Yet the items that surprise people most are not hats or boots, but watches. Contrary to the image of a freewheeling cowboy, Nelson has a quiet passion for vintage mechanical watches. In a wooden cabinet on the porch, he keeps a few dozen, ranging from a gold Rolex Datejust, a gift from a close friend in the music world, to leather-strap Casios and Timexes he wore for decades. Many are scratched with cracked crystals and hour hands that stopped long ago, but Nelson never throws them away. "I like watches that have stopped," he once said half-jokingly, "because sometimes I want time to stop like that too." People say that before each major tour, he always chooses a watch at random from the drawer, sometimes the cheapest one, and wears it for the entire journey. When the tour ends, he engraves the date on the back with a silver stylus, then puts it back in the drawer. To Willie, watches do not measure time. They measure memory. They count the times he nearly died, the times he was reborn, and the moments when music saved him from himself. Collectors have invited him to sell the collection, estimating it to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But Nelson refused, only smiling. "These things aren't worth anything to anyone else, but to me, they are my whole life." And indeed, looking around the house at Luck Ranch, one understands why. Every item here bears the breath of a real person, not lavish, not fussy, just witnesses to a life of upheaval. If the car garage reflects the public side of Willie Nelson, strong, vibrant, and free, then this room is the inner part, nostalgic, rustic, and deep. Here, everything has scratches and wear, But nothing is lifeless. Just like Nelson himself, a man who can carry storms in his heart, yet still smiles when speaking of the small things that walked with him through a lifetime. When people think of Willie Nelson, they often think immediately of long braided hair, the trigger guitar chipped with the years, and the hoarse voice of a wanderer who has spent more than half a century on every road in America. Yet behind that image of a free artist lies a rare financial story, a journey of ups and downs so extreme that anyone who hears it cannot help but be stunned. From the abyss of tens of millions of dollars in debt, seemingly with no way out, Willie turned the situation around, rebuilding an empire worth tens of millions. That is not merely the deftness of a businessman, but living proof of the resilience of an untamable soul who refuses to be knocked down. According to many estimates, his net worth currently ranges from 25 to 30 million USD, not a colossal number compared to pop or rock superstars of his era, but what makes it special lies in the foundation. Built from his own music, relentless touring, and business turns that reflect his true self. The largest source of income, of course, has always been music. More than 200 albums released, 60 million copies sold worldwide, and timeless songs like On the Road Again, Blue Eyes, Crying in the Rain, and Crazy have brought him millions in royalties over decades. Even in the streaming era, Willie's music still thrives, because today's youth still seek his melodies to discover a rustic, raw America that is true to the bone. But what truly lifted him after the crisis does not lie only in albums, but in the power of the stage. Throughout his life, Willie has performed more than 2,600 shows, a number that even the most rebellious rockers must bow to. In his 80s, even into his 90s, he still stands on stage, still sells out shows, bringing in from $500,000 to $1 million in a single night. The two annual events, Luck Reunion at the Ranch and the 4th of July picnic in Texas, alone consistently bring in about $2 million each year. For Willie, the stage is not only a source of income, but a heartbeat. Each show is not just for singing, but his way of declaring to the world he is still here, still the unyielding outlaw. Of course, speaking of Willie Nelson cannot omit Willie's Reserve, the cannabis brand that has become a symbol closely tied to his name. This is not only a legal product line, but a green empire built on Willie's proud outlaw image. With estimated revenue of about 2 million USD per year, Willie's Reserve is like a slap to prejudice. What once had him handcuffed many times now sustains a legal brand across the United States. Few would expect that while people still associate Willie Nelson's name with billowing cannabis smoke, he quietly became a pioneer in a field seemingly unrelated: clean energy. He founded the Willie Nelson Biodiesel Company, joined the Biofuel Alliance, and encouraged farmers to grow soybeans to produce clean fuel. That is not only an environmentally meaningful step, but also Willie's lifelong commitment to farmers, the people he has always considered the backbone of America. Beyond music and business, Willie also stepped into Hollywood in his own way. He appeared in more than 30 films and television programs, from Honeysuckle Rose to The Dukes of Hazzard and Stagecoach. He is not a professional actor, but with just a mischievous smile, a witty gaze, and a weathered cowboy bearing, Willie turned each appearance into an unforgettable mark. Advertising deals further colored that financial picture. From Taco Bell in the 1990s to the high-profile 2022 Super Bowl commercial for Skechers, Willie proved he can sell not only music, but his very lifestyle. Today, looking at Willie Nelson's 25-30 million USD fortune, that number does not merely reflect wealth. It is a symbol of endurance, of ceaseless creativity, and of the belief that a true artist can live authentically, despite all storms. Behind the dazzling lights of the stage, Willie Nelson always carries fierce private tempests. If his music is a melody of soaring freedom, then his personal life is a tear-drenched ballad filled with passionate love, painful falls, and an unending quest for redemption. The first marriage came in 1952, when Willie was just in his early 20s with Martha Matthews, a love full of passion but also full of violence. In 10 years, they had 3 children together, Lana, Susie, and Billy. However, that love was fueled by arguments, temper, and the instability of a young artist still struggling to find his place. In 1962, the marriage collapsed, leaving deep wounds. That wound became a scar on his life when in 1991, Billy, their son, took his own life. That shock was like a knife carved into Nelson's heart, causing him to never stop mentioning it with remorse for the rest of his life. Less than a year after the divorce, Willie entered a new bond with country singer Shirley Collie. But this brief second marriage ended with a shocking scene. Shirley discovered in her husband's papers a hospital bill, listing childbirth costs for a baby that was not hers. It was irrefutable proof of betrayal. That baby was Paula, the daughter Willie had with Connie Kepke. The marriage ended in bitterness in 1971, exposing a dark side of Willie Nelson, a lawless drifter even in love. But what is surprising is that shortly after, Willie officially married Connie Kepke, the woman in that scandal. They had 2 more daughters, Paula Carleen and Amy Lee. For 17 years, this was considered a rare, peaceful period in his life. However, the relentless touring schedule, endless trips, along with a temperament that could never stay settled, eventually caused this marriage to fall apart in 1988. In 1991, Willie entered his 4th marriage with Annie D'Angelo, a makeup artist he met in the art world. Annie is considered the final anchor, bringing peace after a string of stormy days. They have 2 sons, Lucas and Micah, both following their father into music, but by very different paths. Lucas formed the band Promise of the Real, collaborating even with Neil Young, while Micah pursued an experimental style under the stage name Particle Kid. For Willie, that is a source of pride. His children do not live in his shadow, but find their own voices, true to the spirit of freedom he has pursued all his life. It seemed all secrets had been exposed. But in 2012, Willie once again made the public fall backward when he revealed that he had another daughter, Renee, from a relationship years earlier with Mary Haney. Instead of denying it, Willie opened his arms wide, welcoming Renee as an indispensable part of the family. That very moment showed his true nature, a complicated man who had erred and lost his way but never turned his back on blood and kinship. Willie Nelson's romantic journey is like the songs he sings, imperfect, full of thorns, but truthful to the core. Every lyric about love, separation, or loss is an echo from his own stormy life. And perhaps it is precisely thanks to those intense experiences that Willie Nelson can become a deep voice touching millions of hearts, not because he is a flawless legend, but because he is a real human being, with all the mistakes and all the forgiveness. To this day, though he has entered the twilight of life, Willie Nelson is still a living paradox. While most of his contemporaries have quietly retreated, he still roams across America, cradling the battered trigger guitar, raising a hoarse voice that makes audiences both moved and astonished. But behind the stage lights is a body increasingly crisscrossed with the wounds that age and time leave behind. Since the 1980s, Halth has become a silent enemy. In 1981, he nearly died from a collapsed lung, a turning point that forced Nelson to adjust his pace of life and cut back on the intensity of his labor. But only a short time later, he kept grinding on, until his hands rebelled against their owner. In 2004, Nelson had to undergo surgery for carpal tunnel syndrome. the result of decades of non-stop guitar playing. At times, fans thought they might never see him and Trigger together on stage again. Yet despite the risks, Willie returned, proving that for him, music is the strongest medicine that medicine cannot prescribe. By 2015, he underwent stem cell therapy to save lungs ravaged by decades of cigarettes. Even so, turning 90 still did not stop him from taking the stage, occasionally forced to cancel shows due to health, but then stubbornly returning, as if the outlaw spirit inside never accepts defeat. What shocks the public is that even as his body grows weaker, Nelson's creative fire burns stronger. In 2023, at the age of 90, he released I Don't Know a Thing About Love, an album honoring Harlan Howard, proving that inspiration has never run dry. A year later, in 2024, Willie Nelson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a glory beyond country music, affirming that he is a legend of American music as a whole. But numbers and titles cannot tell the full story of Willie's legacy. He turned country from something considered rustic into a language of resistance, of freedom, of popular poetry. More than 200 albums, 60 million copies sold, and thousands of performances are just the surface. The depth lies in how he changed the face of an entire culture. And the image that will live on is not the splendid stages, but Willie sitting on the porch at Luck Ranch, horses ambling in the fields, Trigger on his lap, his hoarse voice still echoing in the wind. That is not just a person, that is the immortal symbol of the American spirit of freedom. Looking back from a poor boy in Abbott, Texas to becoming a global legend, we do not just see a successful career, we also see the story of a heart that refuses to fall, a compassionate soul, and a steadfast character. In his 90s, Willie Nelson still exists as living proof that music, love, and freedom can defeat time. If Willie Nelson's scandal-filled, tumultuous life story made you think, hit like, share, and subscribe to keep joining us as we uncover the untold sides of other living legends. But tell us, what do you think is Willie's greatest legacy? His timeless hit songs, his humanitarian activism, or the very string of infamous scandals that turned him into an irreplaceable outlaw icon? Share your thoughts in the comments below.